Hello world, it's Birdo Prey 5, Qapla, and welcome to my review of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 8, Excretus. And let's cut right to the chase. This is probably my favorite episode of the season. One of the best episodes of Lower Decks ever. There are now 3 episodes of Lower Decks that I would say are superior episodes. The season finale of episode 1, the second episode of season 2, and now this 8th episode of season 2. All 3 of them are well worth watching, but they all share in that you really want to be a Star Trek fan to get the most out of them. And this one is no exception. It is a string of member berries, but in a story that's well put together and explains, like, okay, at least we have a reason for why we're going from familiar situation to familiar situation. And the beginning of this episode, the Lower Decks crew is admiring. They just got finished working on looks like a space telescope or something, and they're admiring the vastness of space and how beautiful it is. And they're like, we're all in this together. And then the ship gets a distress call, and the captain warps away, forgetting that she left her 4 lower decks crewmen, including her daughter, on this space station or whatever. So it turns out they didn't come back for 6 hours. They were nearly frozen and killed. They argue over, well, why did this happen? But it's like, it doesn't matter. Had they signed out the magnet boots, they would have known they weren't on the ship. But it's also, the senior crew's job to know that people are off the ship. But so the mother says, listen, they're going to be drilled today. There's a drill instructor coming, and she doesn't need Mariner having a chip on her shoulder, which is like, well, you should have picked a different crew then. It turns out the drill instructor acts like your typical, I don't know, HR, human resources, whatchamacallit, consultant, trying to get people to work better. Anyway, the way they do it, and you can see the screen here, is that you're going to be put in familiar situations, and those familiar situations all have titles nearly identical to episode titles from TOS and TNG, and maybe Voyager, I'm not sure. They also are going to go ahead and reverse the roles. So the lower decks crew are going to be competing as the senior staff, and the senior crew are going to be competing as lower decks. And I guess everybody in the middle, more or less, they're going to stay in middle management, because that's what it is. So they all get their own basically individual holo deck. It's a holopod. And so Mariner's up first, and she's getting a mirror universe encounter. So she's in the Terran Empire. She's got to find a way back to be it. And she's like, oh, I love the mirror universe. She can be evil and We see mirror universe versions of everybody. Got Rutherford and Billups talking about torturing people and being horny all the time. So Mariner's like, okay, well, instead of finding a way out, we'll take over the ship and destroy the mirror universe from the inside out. And she loses points for that. She's like, oh, okay, I guess there's no points for creativity. Anyway, Mariner makes it through. Lieutenant Shax. But now we've got Mirror Boimler, and he's even got the beard. And Boimler realizes Mariner's a fake because she salutes with the wrong hand. And she's trying to say she's strained the shoulder, flogging a Vulcan. And he gets his neuralizer on her, and she loses. She fails out. So it's okay. Also the Starfleet drill officer is a species whose for reason head and body separate into 3 different pieces. Okay, so Tendi is chief medical officer, and her mission is to assist in suicide of a Klingon who broke his back. Anyway, it's a very reminiscent of the TNG episode where Worf requests to have Riker kill him. Of course, in that episode, they did not help Worf kill himself, but in this situation, she was supposed to help him kill himself. But it turns out that she couldn't do it, and they can't do anything about it. And instead of calling time of death, they call time of life. So Tendi fails her mission. Basically, Mariner is now going to an Old West planet, and long story short, she's going to fail. Everybody's going to fail their mission. Everybody across the board fails, except Boimler. Boimler's going to have a Borg experience. And he actually passes on the very first try, but he passes with a measly 79% score, and Boimler feels like he could do a lot better. Oh, this is a great one. So this is from Star Trek 3. Rutherford has to go fix the warp crystal so that they can get warp power back online, but he can't even open the door lock because it's too hot. I love the old style uniforms, and we're going to get a beautiful picture in just a second. Unfortunately, it only lasts an instant. We get that beautiful shot of the original Enterprise A, and then it explodes because Rutherford couldn't get in there because he's not Vulcan like Spock. But that's fine. So anyway, we're back here at Boimler. He's in this Borg simulation. He does pretty good. Boimler says he's read up on the Borg. He knows what to do. He passes the simulation, but he's not happy with 79%. So he says, we'll do it again and again and again. It turns out that he improves his score each time he goes through the mission. Like the first time he doesn't save the babies. The second time he does it, he saves the Borg babies. The third time he saves somebody else. So he's slowly making his way up through the 80s, through the 90s. But then we stop seeing him because he's too busy. Basically, he's continuously trying to improve his score. So we go back to see Now we're gonna see the senior staff who are actually being lower decks in the simulation, and at first they're okay, Mariner's in the naked time, the disease that made everybody have sex and fight and whatnot. So Mariner is now seeing the entire staff of the Cerritos naked and making out and having gay sex, and like, this is honestly, I know this is a bit much. It's a bit much, but it makes sense because it's a naked time uh, spoof. So I get it. In the meantime, now the lower decks people get to be the higher ups on the ship, so they are sitting in the captain's mess, and they get to enjoy they get to enjoy the replicators the senior staff have. So, like, Tendi doesn't know what pesto is. She's like, what's this? And it's the computer says, oh, that's pesto. Like, she needs to be impressed about pesto. Because I guess you can't get pesto in the lower decks replicator. So Mariner is saying maybe their jobs really are this hard. And Tendy's like, well, they're going to figure out how hard it is to do our jobs. And they're all laughing it off. They're like, being lower decks is so easy. Mariner's like, so who cares about cramped showers or smaller replicators? There's no responsibility. And the cat, Dr. Tana, she's even happy with the close quarters because she can just lay on Lieutenant Shax, who have been having a thing together. So they get a red alert. So they have a Klingon encounter for lower decks, but they realize they're just stuck in a cargo bay being told to stack cargo, and they have nothing to do with the actual Klingon encounter. They're like, we can be helpful. Let us out. Let us do something. And they're like, no. And they're like, wait, did Q come through here? And they're like, wait, Q's on the ship? And they're like, nope, forget I said anything. So Captain Freeman's getting really pissed. She can't be of any help. Lieutenant Shax is getting pissed. He's like, if they want us to stack these, why are they shaped like hexagons? So the drill instructor says the last drill is a simulated experience that uses the real bridge and see how the crew unites as a single team. And the mission is to steal the Cerritos from Spacedock and save Spock from the Genesis planet. An oldie but a goodie, says Freeman. So, of course, Mariner is captain because Boimler is nowhere to be seen. Boimler is still in the simulator. Apparently, nobody notices. Mariner is seeing flashbacks of Shax from the naked time, and so she tells him no, he can't do any stretches. Freeman saw Mariner fall off the horse in her simulation, and it's like she gave him 2.5 years of horseback lessons, and that's what she got. Anyway, they all get to fighting, and the ship crashes into the Spacedock doors before they even leave Spacedock, which, if you remember from Star Trek 3, was something that very closely almost happened. Anyway, it turns out that was a new record poor score for the ship. The fact that they couldn't even get out of Spacedock They didn't even get a number grade, just incomplete. So Mariner and Freeman talking alone like mother-daughter again. Both of them agree that the other side has it pretty hard. And, this is kind of stuff you would have thought they would have talked about earlier, but never did. So now Freeman is like, oh, I see this. This really isn't about simulations. This is about bringing us together. So she's going to go shake the hand of the woman. She's like, these drills were about team building. You were great. It was a great secret. And Captain Freeman says, thanks to you, the crew is going to move forward with a deeper empathy for each other. And no. The woman's like, no, you're not moving forward at all. She's laughing her ass off. She's like, this wasn't about team building. You people all failed. This is the worst ship in the fleet. They're going to reassign this entire crew. And Freeman's like, so this wasn't about teamwork? She's like, no, this was about saving my job. All the big ships passed so easily, Starfleet didn't think they needed me at all. So I had to find a ship that I knew was going to fail. And they were like, yeah. She's like, so Freeman's like, you targeted us? And she's like, you're damn right. Your captain left 4 ensigns, to leave for a warp flight. They left 4 ensigns behind. I knew you guys were gonna fail. Plus, she rigged all the drills, so nobody was gonna pass. And Mariner's like, oh, so you rigged them. That's why the horse didn't like me. And she's like, no, actually the horse I didn't have time to rig. That was really the horse didn't like you. So Mariner was pissed. So, but until Boimler is done with his drill, she can't submit the scores. So it turns out now that Captain Freeman gives Boimler an order not to close out his drill. He was like, he has 100%. He was just about to finish his Borg drill. He taught the Queen empathy and he beat her at chess and he's rescuing a whole bunch of people. He was just ready to leave. He was just ready to get his perfect 100. And no, he got an order to stay in the simulation for as long as possible. So he already lost a couple of points because he didn't leave when he could. Anyway, so what Freeman is going to do is, since they can't go back into their pods because they failed, what they can do is go to real world things. And they're basically blackmailing this woman by scaring her in real world things, because she's never had real world experience. She's only read reports. So the first thing they're going to do is go find a crystalline entity, because apparently there's like a dozen crystalline entities in range. So they're going to go fight a crystalline entity to scare her. The Borg Queen, Alex Krige, is back as the Borg Queen. She was the one who played the Borg Queen in Star Trek First Contact. And she is the voice of the Borg Queen in this episode. So that's a decent throwback to First Contact. Now, she's not the person who was hired to play the Borg Queen in the upcoming Picard Season 2, but that's fine. Truth be told, I wouldn't have known she was the Borg Queen had I not seen the name at the end of the episode saying it was played by her. But yeah, so this scene is very reminiscent of when Data was being held down, and there was a little sexual tension between the Borg Queen and Commander Data in First Contact. Um, she's going to add his biological distinctiveness to their own, and Boimler's like, "You sure? I've got hay fever, acid reflux. This would be a net failure, a net loss to add me to the Borg." And to be honest, it's true. And the Borg would usually just kill people who don't add to the collectiveness. Um, so the plan to scare this woman seems to be working. They're leaving one crystalline entity. Now they're going to go find a temporal black hole, and they're going to keep doing this until they change their score. And the woman's like, "I'm not going to do it at first," until she calls maximum warp. She's like, "You can't blackmail me at the expense of your crew." And Captain Freeman's like, "They do this all the time. They do this every day." And this scene is a little bit like, this is the black hole. This is a little bit like the black hole we see in the opening credits. I was wondering if we were going to see the rest of the opening credits in this episode. We don't. This was the only scene that looks similar. So finally, the woman gives up and says, "It's okay. You guys pass." Anyway, she's like, how did we get out of the temporal black hole?" She's like, "It was just a regular black hole. And you would have known that if you weren't a fraud." And so Captain Freeman says that that's going to be in her report, that this woman was a fraud. And now they go to get Boimler out, but Boimler has been assimilated and he won't come out. Like, "You can come out now." He says, "There is no Boimler. I am Excretus of Borg." And that's where we get the title for the episode. I Excretus. Excretus. So, of course, it was only a simulation, but Boimler really thinks he was assimilated. And so he asked did he get his perfect score? He doesn't see that he failed, but Tendi lies to him and says, "You sure did. You got your perfect score, 100%. So at least Boimler doesn't know that he lost his perfect score. Truth be told, he is still considered a hero. Captain Freeman called him a hero. Everybody knows that it was all thanks to him that the ship was saved. He was out of it, so he's happy enough. So I'm okay with the fact that he did lose his 100%, but he did get credit for saving the ship. Also, as a thank you to the lower decks crew at the end, the senior staff do bring them a new replicator that gets all the good food. So they were very, very happy to see that. And it was, I don't know. If it's going to be there going forward, then be a nice change that they can get some quality food. But is it a cartoon and they're going to forget the fact they have a new replicator next week? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I hope they do. I hope they write it in. But it was a fun episode. Okay, every scene, I laughed, I lolled, looking back at the at all the, it was like a journey through Trek history, through the movies, through TOS, through TNG, and it kept my interest. I thought a lot of it was fun, funny. I was laughing. I really wasn't sure how this morning was going to start. Last night, I'm going to toot my own horn. Last night, I was about to go to sleep. I played one more game of Call of Duty Warzone, and finally, for the first time in my life, I came in first place in Call of Duty Warzone solos. For those of you who understand what that means, you understand what it means. For those of you who don't, I came in first out of 150 players in the game. I usually come in like 75. I did extraordinarily well last night. And this morning, I said, watch Lower Decks is going to get me all depressed. And no, in fact, Lower Decks kept me even more happy than I was the fact that I came in first the night before. So it has been a good day so far. Thank you to Lower Decks. I'm going to give this episode another 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think it's worth it. A 9 out of 10. Yeah, there could have been improved, of course. There can always be improvements. Does some of it not make sense? Yes. Like, Boimler's mission should have been a failure once he got assimilated. But all Trek, especially good Trek, there's still that, one thing that never makes any sense, right? Like in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the entire movie wouldn't have happened had Captain Kirk followed the very simple and logical principle that you keep your shields up when approaching an unknown ship. Okay, had he just done that, there would be no Wrath of Khan. Spock wouldn't have died. Scotty's nephew wouldn't have died. The Enterprise would never have been virtually destroyed. Nobody would have been buried alive for all eternity. But he had to do it because you need the plot to go on. That's a Star Trek trope, and it's no different in Lower Decks than it is in, like I said, even the best TOS movie. Something isn't always going to make sense. It's just the way the show is written. But I was happy. I was happy. It kept me entertained, and most importantly, I was happier when I was done watching than before I had started. So with that, check out this episode of Lower Decks if you haven't. This is one of the few that I think you really should watch. And if you are a Star Trek fan, if you've seen TOS, TNG, the Star Trek movies, you will need to see those to get the most out of this episode. If Lower Decks is the first Star Trek you've ever seen, then I can totally get it if this episode doesn't mean much to you. I don't see how it really would. You need to have seen what this was based on to really get it. All the episodes that deal with Westerns. There was the TOS Western episode. There was a TNG Western. There was, hell, Star Trek Enterprise had a Western episode. So you need to see those to understand, when Mariner was in her Western episode, what was going on. But anyway, 9 out of 10. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please remember to comment, like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you out there in the, I don't know, vastness of space. And no, that's the Twilight Zone, and the timelessness of time. But Qapla all, bird out.